Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Blitz Live on this cold Tuesday evening. We're going to go to the phone line and welcome in our next guest, Stewart Mandel, who was with Sports Illustrated for about 15 years. Now he is the senior sports columnist for college basketball and football at foxsports.com. Stewart, thanks so much for giving us some time tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this is kind of one of the best times of year if you are a sports fan. A lot going on, but the March Madness is just one of those things that I think everybody looks forward to. It seems like it's gotten more and more popular over the years. The tournament provides such exhilaration and such drama for about 3 weeks. So even people that don't really keep up with the regular season always get involved, filling out brackets, doing all these kind of things. So just a wonderful time. I was reading some of a column that you wrote just the other day about Selection Sunday and maybe some things that you took from that evening. One of them was this year it seems like it was an uncontroversial bracket. It seems like there's always people that are going to get their feelings hurt, but overall, just kind of give your impressions about the bracket as it stands right now.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't get the annual outrage and controversy over some team being left out or somebody being egregiously seeded wrong. Syracuse seemed to be the team that people were holding up, maybe, possibly, and I just don't think anybody had any sympathy for a 14-loss ACC team that didn't perform particularly well. So, part of that was just the bubble teams this year either played their way in, as teams like Vanderbilt did, or fell flat and made the decision pretty easy for those of us who project the bracket and for the committee. There are certainly some seeds in there I would question. I don't know why Wisconsin is an 8 seed or Michigan a 7 seed for that matter. But, at the end of the day, once the tournament starts, nobody can remember that. Those are pretty minor details, all things considered.
Well, this actually, I guess the tournament starts tonight. I mean, used to they tried there for a while to call it the first round, but I think there was a mass revolt. I might have been, truth be told, one of those that was
they
revolting.
Tried to convince everybody that 64 teams had a bye.
Yeah, really. I don't think that kind of went over too well. Maybe they're just back to calling it the opening round. Don't really call it the first round anymore. So I think that's probably a wise decision. But these play-in games, I mean, they don't necessarily call them that. I think we all call them that. That's exactly what they are. Do you have a problem with it? Do you think 68 teams is too many?
It is too many because, when I do these mock brackets and you try to find those last 4 at-large teams, you're talking about some teams that just really aren't that good. I mean, Kansas State beat Baylor in the conference tournament. That was a great win, and that was enough to get them in, but they only had 2 other big wins the whole season before that. But there's not much we can do about it. I mean, this has been in place now for 6 years, I believe, and it was done because the power conference teams want more spots. It's not like, and people forget this now, but they were actually really close to expanding to 96, which would have been awful. And it's not like the other 32 spots would have gone to mid-majors. They would have just gone to the entire ACC probably would have been in the tournament. I think leave it where it is. These first 2 nights are pretty harmless. If you want to watch them, great. If not, I remember when I first launched, they were trying to convince people to not turn in their brackets until after you knew who won those games. That didn't go very far. I think most people just kind of pencil it in, but it's pretty harmless. I still think, and it'll always be the case no matter what they do to the tournament, that the best day in sports is the first Thursday of the NCAA tournament when there are games on. Pick your time zone, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, and there are great games on in the middle of the day. And I remember a couple years ago, a 14 seed won within the first 2 hours of the tournament. It's just fantastic. I think that still remains for most people the start of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Villanova, Kansas, North Carolina, Gonzaga, those are the 4 number 1 seeds. You okay with those?
I'm okay with them, yeah. I got a little Duke, or not Duke, but I got a little caught up in the Duke ACC tournament win and thought they might be one of them just because they had so many top 50, top 25 wins, and that's something you always hear the committee emphasize. But I don't think it's any shame that UNC is there instead. If anything, reinforces the importance of winning the conference in the regular season. So I don't have any problems with the 1 seeds. I do think that, if I were UNC, maybe I'd be wishing I did get Duke's 2 seed, because I definitely think UNC got placed in by far the toughest region.
Yeah, that's the next question, I guess. When you look at really the 1 and 2 seeds, who has the toughest path? I guess you answered that. It's North Carolina.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the toughest path right off the top. I don't think they're in much danger in the first couple rounds, but in terms of who you're going to see on the other side of the region, you've got Kentucky, you've got UCLA, you've got a Cincinnati team that I think is capable of beating Kentucky if they meet. You've got Wichita State, who is much better than a 10 seed. So yeah, it's a pretty stacked region. I still think they can at least get to the Sweet 16, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Kentucky, they have almost like a Sweet 16 or maybe even an Elite 8 kind of game waiting on them, more than likely in the second round, Wichita State. And if they get that, then they have to face probably a UCLA. So I'm down here, of course, in the heart of SEC country. Kentucky looks like they may have one of the hardest routes.
They definitely have one of the hardest routes, and Cal Poly knows that. I guess it's kind of like the revenge or the flip side of the year that Wichita State was undefeated in the 1 seed and played Kentucky as an 8 seed in the second round. And everybody knew they were, I don't think they necessarily deserved a higher seed, but we all knew they were way more talented than that. And of course, they beat them and reached the national title game. So maybe it's reversed. I will say, I don't think this Wichita State team is as good. Certainly, it's the one that went to that had that undefeated season, or the Final Four the year before, even the one last year. They didn't beat anybody you would say is noteworthy the entire season, but all the analytics say they're a top 10 team. So they're a good team. They're probably better than the 10 seed. The fact that they're a 6.5-point favorite against the 7 seed Dayton tells you that. But by no means do I think that Kentucky's in huge trouble. I mean, it's still a team they should beat. It's just tougher than your typical 10 seed.
Well, upsets happen. That's just kind of the nature of the tournament. The 12-5 seed is notoriously been that upset or ripe for an upset. When you look down through the bracket, are there any ones that just kind of jump off the page at you that this is the one that I'm going to pick?
Yeah, I mean, they're all the 12 seeds in this thing are pretty good. 2 jump off the page at me. Middle Tennessee is a team that probably could have gotten in at large if they needed to. They knocked off Michigan State last year. Now they're matched up against a Minnesota team that's had a good season, but I think we were surprised to see them as a 5 seed. I think you could have easily justified them as a 6 and Middle Tennessee as an 11. And then you've got Virginia against UNC Wilmington, and UNC Wilmington to me is a fantastic team. Gave Duke a heck of a trouble last year, and so I certainly think they're capable of beating a Virginia team that, while they play great defense, has not had great luck in the tournament recently, because that strategy seems to work in the ACC but not in the NCAA tournament.
Northwestern making their first ever trip to the NCAA tournament. They'll take on Vanderbilt. Do you think the Wildcats will move on?
I definitely think they can. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Vanderbilt, a team that is much better than their record. But if you are Northwestern and you're looking around the bracket, you say, which 9 seed would I like to get? I would say that's the one. I don't want to go up. They're not allowed to go up against Michigan State, but if they could, I don't want to go up against Izzo. I think Virginia Tech's better than the 9 seed. Seton Hall's a really good team. So, I think they got, as 9 seeds go, that's probably the best draw they could have asked for. They also get, I think, the 1 seed that people would say that's the one you want to get, but, I think they'll consider it a successful tournament if they win 1 game.
Well, finally, one more question and we'll let you go, but who do you have that's winning it all?
I'm sticking with the champs. Villanova is the champ until proven otherwise in my book, so I've got them beating Louisville in the national championship game.
Well, if they don't, they'll certainly look good doing it. There's no doubt about it.
They're a great team. They dominated this season. Frankly, I don't know why they don't get more hype than they do. Now, certainly Duke is in their same region. That's imposing, but I still trust them more than I do Duke or, for that matter, Kansas or UNC. I mean, they've been there. They've done this.
I think that's probably a good pick. They've kind of outside of 2 losses to Butler, they were probably the best team all year.
Yeah, I mean, 31-3. That's a really good conference they play in. Some good non-conference wins as well. They're just very consistent, very efficient, and this wasn't a case where they won the national title and then had to completely reload the next year. I mean, it's still Chris Jenkins, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, guys you remember from last year's championship run. So we will see. It's very hard, very, very hard to repeat. Florida did it 10 years ago when they brought back literally the entire team, and 3 of those guys were, I believe, first-round draft picks. That's not the deal for Villanova. They're just a really good college basketball team.
Well, that is Stewart Mandel, senior columnist with FoxSports.com. Really appreciate you joining us tonight. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at @SLMandel. Thanks so much, Stewart.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's going to wrap up that segment of Sports Blitz Live, but we'll be back with more right after this.
This